In my journey as a financial educator, I have sessions with people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and there's one very common statement that I've had people say over time: I wish I knew this earlier. Hi, my name is Ola. Welcome to my channel. On this channel, we explain personal finance, investing, and the economy in simple English. If that's something you're interested in, please subscribe, hit the notification button, and you are welcome to our community. That's one. Now, today is quite interesting. What we're talking about today is quite interesting. In my journey as a financial educator, I have sessions with people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and there's one very common statement that I've had people say over time: I wish I knew this earlier. And it's so nostalgic. It's also very humbling. So today I'll be talking about 7 things that you can teach your child today, as long as your child's in elementary or above, that you can teach your child today that will help them avoid that statement later in life. I wish I heard this earlier. Now we'll go into it. Now, what I'm going to talk about, they're going to be hard things like technical things, and there'll be soft things like mindset. So there'll be a balance of both. But most importantly, it is important for them to have a foundational knowledge of finance, of money. And this is what this video is about. So hang on. Now, the first thing, where does money come from? Before you go on with this video, just pause, right? Turn to every young person around you and ask them, where do they think money comes from? Now, in my own experience, I have had sessions with kids in elementary, in secondary school. I have been shocked by the responses or the lack of knowledge of where money actually comes from. It is actually shocking. So I would like if you can ask your kids around you, and then just drop in the comments, what response did you get to that question, where does money come from? Now, after they've given you all their interesting answers, the fundamental response to that question, the proper response to that question, is that money comes in exchange for either skill, value, or time. Now, we can go into the details. When I have sessions with young people, we break it down into time, then into skill, and into value, right? And it builds up over time. But fundamentally, it is in exchange for any of these that you get paid. And then it's also important for them to see the trajectory of the school they're going to, the education that they are getting, to be able to optimize how much they get paid, right? Some way or the other. Right? So where does money come from? That is the very first thing. Now, the second thing that they need to understand is the difference between needs, wants, and the value of delayed gratification. Now, why is this important? In the context of school fees is a need. It must be paid, high priority. But joining a club that requires that we spend an additional fee or cost every term that is not necessarily critical to your academic success is a want. In the context of the home, eating a proper meal is a need, but having a burger as a snack or having ice cream is a want. Now, where does delayed gratification come into this? Delayed gratification is something as simple as, oh, you want to have a burger. If you're able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, by the end of the week, you will get your burger. So they work towards getting that thing that is a want. It isn't just that, oh, I have cash, therefore I am spending it on a need. Now, one of the things I would like parents to do in this, or parents or guardians to do in this, is don't just say yes or no based on the cost. What do I mean? Let's say you have an extra $500 that you could spend every month on your kid, random number, 50K, whatever it is, random number, and a child comes with something that is 5 naira or $5, and you're like, oh, it's just $5. No, how that need versus want conversation. Why do I say that? Because as parents or as guardians, the instinct is that if it is so cheap, we just say, what's the big deal? And so we teach children inadvertently not to value that 5 naira or that $5. And then you just hear them saying it is just, and you now say, if I can say it's just, have you worked for it? That's how it starts. it somehow came from you. So when you're making that decision of should I do this as against it, you'll be asking, is this a need? Is this a want? Must we do this right now? Have those conversations and help them, let them over time begin to have those conversations with you. Now, there's a money mindset part of this, and we'll talk about that later. But this fundamental difference between needs and wants and delayed gratification is key. Especially if you're a parent who is doing well currently and has enough to pay for most of the things your kids ask for. It is key for them to also learn the financial discipline of judging what is a need, what is a want, where do I put my energy at the start. Now, the third thing you need to teach your child is how to save, right? Now, depending on what your beliefs are or your orientation around this, some parents believe, oh, my kids should be paid weekly, they wash the dishes or they do, different things like that. Or some people just feel like, no, that's part of the family structure. You do it and you're done, right? But it depends on but whatever income, whatever money they get, even if it's grandparents giving them 10K, 1K, whatever it is, just the ability to say, this is your money. You have the power to spend it, but don't spend everything. Just have that habit of putting something away. And I will now lead you into explaining how this can tie into investing, even for a 6-year-old, right? So teach them that. And then when you talk about saving, talk about the why. Why? Because there are some things that might come up later that might be more important than this thing that you are seeing right now, and use real life examples to explain. But tell them that whenever they get any inflow, they should have an amount that they keep aside. Give them that discipline. If you want at the start, you can say 30%, 40%. For every 1K, they should put 4K away, or they should put 400 away. Give them some kind of framework to start with. Of course, over time, it will change because they are human beings and they're adults, they will grow up, you understand? But give them a framework to just understand that principle of, I got this, I can go to the store and spend it, but I'm keeping this away. Now, before we jump into what they will do with the saving, right? I just want to do like this short time out to say that if you are enjoying this and you think this is valuable, please share with a friend or a colleague, a sibling that will find this useful, because you should be a good friend, you should be a good family, right? So share, hit the notification button if you haven't already. Of course, you should have subscribed by now. Welcome to our community, and let's get on with the video. Another thing that I also forgot to mention is that we actually do have virtual sessions annually during the summer holidays for young people to teach them about money in greater detail, like actually teach them and break them down in a relatable way. So if you are interested, if that's something you would want your children to be signed up to, then the link will be in the description. So please just join the wait list and we'll get to you once we are ready to launch. Number 4, teach them about investing. Now, how did I teach my son the place of investing? Now, what are the key things when it comes to investing? I know that we as adults may also be struggling with it as a concept. But the way I teach kids about investing at home, what I did with my son was that we planted a bean. This beans project that we do, like they do in like elementary, where they will plant a bean in like tiny soil in a cup, and then you see that after a while, you water and you keep watching and then it sprouts, and then you actually end up having like a small stalk with beans around, That is what I use as my example of when it comes to investing, and explaining to them that, okay, this money that you have saved, this is what it can possibly be, right? If you put it in the right environment, give it time, you don't go and dig out the bean seed after a while, you will see that it is dead, nothing will come out of it, So that's the scenario that I use for kids. And I mean, for teenagers, it's easier to explain because they see it around them. But what is the mindset you're telling them? That, see, if you plant and you give it time, right, and you nurture it over time and you actually allow it, what you would find is that you would actually have more than this one seed. It will grow bigger than that. Now, it's a mindset because there's a time factor, and who has the most time, God willing, The kids. So the earlier they have that mindset, the later they get into that mindset as they're starting to make money, as they get their first job, they can be thinking about, okay, how do I invest? In these conversations, kids now start saying, okay, where do I get the money that can be the seeds to plant? Do you get? And you begin to have those conversations and they begin to be more entrepreneurial than you ever were at their age, right? So what am I saying here? Don't give it as a lecture. You need to invest. But use that scenario, right? Even kids in secondary school can relate with it. Just plant it, give it time, right? And you would see that it will produce more than one bean seed in the end, right? It's just the same logic. And it's as simple as, oh, we're about to cook a pot of beans and you just pick one from it and say, this is our saving, right? And we're going to plant it here. And then we're going to give it time and let's see what happens. That is how, but then the major thing here is the mindset that if you actually want to build wealth, this is the way to build wealth. I talked about how to make money. So there's a difference. There's making money and there's building wealth. So we've talked about how to make money. It's an exchange. But when you start building wealth, it is a system. It is some things that you put in place. And that's what you teach your children early enough before the noise gets too much. Early enough. Now, the fifth thing that they need to know is about the economic systems of the world. Like, one of the things that I realize a lot of adults struggle with is, for example, you grew up in a cash economy and then you move to a credit economy. And then you think that because your credit card never bounces, you think you are fine, right? And then every economy has its good and it's bad. Now, just so that you understand, as a parent, there is a credit economy where everything is run on debt. You want to get a mortgage, you need to build your credit score. Those are the things that are important in that environment. But those are the pros, because generally it is cheaper to borrow, right? Those are the pros of a credit economy. But the cons of a credit economy is that in the end, you might end up getting drowned in debt because it's so easily accessible. So while you're talking to your kids, you can tell them that, okay, our house is on credit, right? Because we bought a mortgage. So even though we bought the house for 500, we borrowed 300 to buy the house. So what we actually own in this house is 200. And as we pay down, the 200 becomes 250, blah, blah, blah. But then guess what? If, for example, the value of the house was now at 300 and you were owing 350, even if you sell the house, the money is not going to come to you. You have to pay more, right? So understanding the credit economy is important, and just letting them know that, yes, that my card is going through doesn't mean that I use my money. So you have to understand where to draw the line. Now, in a cash economy, if there's no money in that card, nothing is gonna go. But what is the disadvantage, right? The disadvantage is that you tend to build slower. Why? Because you must generate most of the cash before you can do anything, because cash is expensive. That is literally it. Now, why is this economic system important? Because we found adults that move from cash economies to credit economies, and because their card never really declines, they lose sense of where to stop when it comes to using their credit cards, or they take on more debt and then in the end they have to file for bankruptcy, and they are in shock because more than half of the things that they bought they could have avoided if they were aware that my card is not being declined doesn't mean that it is my money. So that whole sense of debt and where to place it is just important for them to be aware that we would have to borrow because that's how we build our credit score. But then you have to be aware that you also need to have cash. Or if you're in a cash economy, you have to be aware that you'll be more prudent because there'll be need for you to have cash to fall back on. Hope that is not too complex. But yes, understanding the two systems and giving examples is the easiest way. Oh, you see in Nigeria, we have to have this, or in Kenya, you have to have this, but when you come to Canada, this is how you do it, and blah, blah, blah. That's how they begin to be aware of the differences around the world and how it drives the systems that are. That's not. Now, on the back of this credit economy, the next thing you need to talk about is that the most important information in your financial status is your net worth. Now, if you don't know as a parent, let me tell you what net worth is. Net worth is basically your assets, that's your investments, property, blah, 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 minus all the debts that you owe, whether it's that you're owing for hair, or you're owing for a car, or you're owing for your house, or you just have consumer debt, whatever it is, right? Your assets minus your liability. Now, why is this important? I remember when I was in university, one of my goals was I wanted to earn 1 million naira a month was a goal. But in retrospect, I realized that that goal in itself was faulty. Why? Because if you earn 1 million and you spend 9,999 and somebody earns 500k and spends 200, that 500k person is in a better financial position than you. But you will feel good, feel great, have bragging rights, have the best bags, blah, blah, blah. But most importantly, your net worth. If you look at the richest men in the world, what are they comparing? Net worth, asset minus liability. That is actually when you know that you are building. So from an early age, don't have how much do you want to earn conversations. Have what net worth do you want to have? Meaning, even if you are taking a mortgage, it's fine. But the mortgage should be on a property that you expect the value to increase. Not that you don't really care as long as I have my fine house. Yeah? Why? Because you're going to be paying a mortgage on it. And if for any reason you have to sell down and the asset is not more than the liability, that is a problem. So net worth. So let's move away from how much do you earn to what's your net worth. Like, what kind of net worth do you want to have, right? Because if you now tie the investing part of things, so net worth, income is going to start with where money comes from, yes. But when you start with investing and the beans, then you now start talking about net worth, because you might have just one seed, but if you put it in the right place, your net worth can be more than someone that got 20 seeds, if you get what I mean. So let's reframe our kids' mindset from the earliest possible to move from how much are you making to how much are you worth. And then the final thing, the seventh thing that I want us to talk about with our kids is giving. Now, there are 3 aspects to giving, and I think if there are other aspects to it, please tell me in the comment section. But I think for giving, it has to do with religious beliefs around giving, the sense of community, and then tax benefits, right, from giving. Those are the 3 major reasons why people give. To help people around them, that's community. For religious reasons, your tithe, your offering, to support ministry, those kind of things. And then to avoid or get tax benefits, right? Those are the 3 reasons why people give. Now, why am I talking about giving here? Because especially for Africans, there's a lot of emotional, manipulation around giving. And it's very important for us to empower our kids to understand how to give from an early age and why they should give, right? And the way to consider it, the first thing you need to tell your kids when it comes to giving is that you give out of what you have. Always give within your own limits, right? We've talked about needs versus wants. If you're able to balance that out in terms of needs versus wants and the planning of it, then you would naturally have a budget. You naturally know that, okay, these are the things that I have and these are the things that I don't have, right? But then when it comes to giving, the question is, how much do you have to actually give, regardless of the purpose, right? How much do you have to give, and make sure you don't exceed that. Why? Because black tax is a real African thing. It's a real thing. And we need to find ways not to pass it on to the next generation, right? We need to find ways to teach them to say, yes, you have, so you give, but you also plan your giving, right? This is tithe. Tithe is 10%. So give the 10% and move on. This is an offering. How much do you have that you can give the offering out of, right? But of course, the one that when it comes to tax is your tax consultant that will give you guidance on the optimized, don't do more than you need to kind of thing, right? But then it's important for us to talk to kids about giving, especially if it's a value that is important to us, because in this whole trying to build net worth, trying to grow, trying to be the richest, where does money come from? There's a sense of it becoming about them. But that's why I'm ending with giving, because giving is what balances it out so that it becomes more about the society, more about helping and making them more aware of the needs around them. There are 7 things that you need to teach your kids starting today. Number 1, where does money come from? Number 2, needs versus wants and delayed gratification. Number 3, how to save and budget. Number 4, how to actually build wealth, because it's different from making money. Number 5, the economic systems of the world and the differences between them. And number 6, the difference between net worth and income. And finally, how to give effectively. I trust this was useful. If you would like to sign your kids up for the summer program, the link will be in the description box. Don't forget to sign them up, join the wait list, and we'll get to you once we start our active campaign. And do not forget that you can't outsource your health and your finances. You always have to engage. No one can go to the gym on your behalf and you'll be fit, and no one can eat vegetables on your behalf and you'll be healthy. That's the same way you can't outsource your finances. You actually have to engage. See you in the next video. Bye.